listening to Your Ultimate Life with Kellan Fluckiger, only on LA Talk Radio.
Hey, welcome today to Your Ultimate Life. So today we're going to take a trip. So I've got this picture behind me, and I hope you're watching the video. There's this railroad track, and I hope you can see it. You know, there it goes off into the distance. And I'm reminded, as I thought about what to talk about today, of the old shows, you know, the vacation shows of Chevy Chase, you know, National Lampoon's Vacation and Christmas Vacation and everything. You know, they went to Wally World and big, long cross-country road trip and encountered all kinds of mishaps on the way. And I'm not much of a fan of slapstick humor. So I really wasn't into that and didn't watch it like a bunch of times. It became kind of a cult classic, and my wife really liked them. But anyway, I was thinking about all the things that happen on the trip. And, you know, some of them are predictable in that sort of movie. But I'm going to move from that movie as a depiction of a silly trip to the trip of life. So we're going to take a trip together for this hour. Where should we go? Down this railroad track. Where's the end? Is it Wally World? No. Let's make it Dreamland. What if you could take a trip to a place where life was exactly like you wanted it? Whoa, what would you do? And I'm reminded of another favorite story of mine, and that is they also made that into a movie. And the original book is really thin. It's called The Polar Express. And it tells the story of a kid. I mean, you've probably seen the movie. I started reading that to my kids in 1986, which was the year that it came out, and I read it every year for about 30 years to them as they grew up and got older and so forth. And it tells the story of a kid who woke up in the middle of the night and got on a train that somehow was in their front yard and went to the North Pole. And the focus of the trip was about believing in Santa Claus was the focus, but it was really about believing in Christmas, believing in love, believing in kindness, believing in forgiveness, really just about believing. And at the end of those words, at the end of the story, I mean, in the book, is a little picture of a silver bell. And the silver bell was one of the bells off of the reindeer sleigh, or the reindeer's harness, I'm sorry, on Santa's sleigh. And, you know, when the bell tinkled, it made the most beautiful sound. And then when the little boy got home, you know, he found a little package and there was the bell. He'd lost it. It fell out of a hole in his pocket and so forth. And he rang the bell, and he and his little sister could hear it. And it was the most beautiful thing. And he heard his parents say, "Oh, too bad it's broken," meaning they couldn't hear it. And then the storyline said, you know, over the years, the bell fell silent for all my friends. And I found one year that my sister couldn't hear it. And then he said, but over the years, the bell still sounds for me as it does for all who truly believe. Now, the implication there, of course, as you read it as a Christmas story, was believe in Santa Claus and the magic of Christmas. But beyond that, it has a whole lot more to do with just love, believing in love. The sound of that bell was the sound of love. So what does that have to do with taking a trip on these railroad tracks? Well, you and I take a trip every day. We get up in the morning and we go through the day, or we take a trip through the week. Now, this is Tuesday. We're doing this on Tuesday, July, whatever it is, 16th, I think, I hope. And so we're taking a trip through the week and through the month and through the year and through our lives. Where are we going? You know, I was just on a coaching call a little bit ago with a client, and we were talking about the opportunity that we have to just sort of go wherever, go and bounce around like a pinball, wherever things take us. And you can do that. You can go through life or your week or your month with no particular aim at all, none. And I've spent time in my life doing that, and I haven't found it to be very interesting or very fulfilling. In fact, I had a client the other day that was exploring that with me. Said, he's lived a lot of his life just sort of going with the flow, wherever he resisted structure and too much, rigidity, and went wherever things took him. And he made an interesting observation. He said, I've achieved a lot of success, and he has, but he said, I have this sense that I'm limited, that the level of success I can achieve is limited by the fact that I don't have a set of railroad tracks. I don't have that. And I'm just going wherever my electrons get pulled. And it was interesting. He made that observation in the context of our coaching call, and he was yearning for some more goals and structure. And that's kind of what I want to talk about on this Let's Go to Dreamland trip. Now, do you believe that there is such a place, such a life, such a situation where the life you dream about is available to you? Do you believe that you can have that, or that it's impossible? That's a loaded question for sure, because often when we consider that, we consider it with a bunch of conditions, right? We say, I want all the time, I want all the freedom, all the money, I want no illness, I want no one to disagree, I want everything to be just like I want it, and everything to be just ordered a certain way. And if you try to imagine a world where that's true for every person, then either it's going to be a terribly lonely place because you're going to be alone, or you're going to have all kinds of conflicts because people's desire. Somebody wants it rainy today, somebody wants it sunny, somebody wants a long snow season for skiing, and somebody wants summer to come early. And those are just the silly ones, someone wants no rain, and farmers are desperate for rain. And that has longer term implications with crops and all kinds of stuff. So when you wish upon a star, metaphorically, or really, what do you wish for? That answer's changed for me a lot over the years and the decades. I used to wish for the typical things. Money, nobody bothering me, everything like I wanted, cars, houses. I used to wish for all that, and did it quite sincerely. And I earned a lot of it in my career. But it didn't give me the thing that I think we really want. Because what I think we really want, when our train gets to Hogwarts, down that track, right, way down at the end, I think we want the last stop to be happy. And I think that every station on the way needs to be station happiness, station joy, station satisfaction, station meaning, station service, station love. Those are the names of the station that make this train ride fun. And when we really think, and this is so confirmed, you see study after study when people are asked at the end of their lives on their deathbed, or, when they're getting close, what they wish they had more of. And it's always love, friendship, family, kindness, relationships. It's never more time at the office, more money, more cars, more boats, more trips. It's never that. So if we know that, like we do, what is it that keeps us sidetracked? And we keep wanting to tape over the names of those stations: station happiness, joy station, service station, love, kindness, forgiveness. Those are the names of the stations that we really want, but we get locked up in this other mess. So let's talk about making this trip. Let's talk about making this trip and how it's actually possible to have those stations be the stations of your life every day. Now, I'm reminded of one more thing I want to say that, for me at least, as these decades have gone by, has been a super, super helpful learning. And that's this. A couple of weeks ago, we went as a family to a lake. And it's summertime up here. Even in Edmonton, Alberta, it gets to be summertime. Sun was out, and we went to a lake. We're going to sit and eat, and we weren't going to camp overnight, but we're going to picnic on the beach and that kind of thing. And whenever you drive somewhere, and if you've got kids in the car, and, I have 10 kids, and we've got another one in our house now, Veronica, who's our 9-year-old Ukrainian girl, and her mom. But anyway, what do kids always ask? Are we there yet? Right? Famous. Are we there yet? And that's a funny and relevant question for a kid to ask on a trip. But when we're making our trip through life, we ask that all the time. We're trying to get more money, more coolness, more stature, more power, more recognition, more happiness. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? I'm not there yet. I must not be there. It's got to be right around the corner. Are we there yet? Let me propose something different for you that will set the stage for what we're going to talk about today, about how to have love, joy, happiness, service, satisfaction, contentment, fun, prosperity be the names of all the stations that you pass. What if the answer is, are we there yet? To that question, are we there yet? What if that question's always yes? Yes, we're there. And where is there? Well, there is here. Because we're always here. And this is a little bit esoteric, but wherever you are right now, that's where you are, right? Wherever you go, there you are. Buck Rogers in the 25th century. All right. So wherever you are right now, that's where you are. And that's the only moment in life you have. So the answer to are you there yet is always yes, because you're always here. Now, if you take that and you realize that some there out there you're never going to get to, you're never going to get there, you're always here. Now, physically, that's easy to understand because I'm sitting here in the chair. I'm not on some other part of the house or other part of the studio. I'm here. Well, from a time perspective, I'm always here right now in this moment. I'm not in some moment in the past or in the future. I'm here. So I'm always here, physically and temporally. What if we chose to be happy with here, to just decide I'm here and this is good. I just love what is. Now, you might think that's nuts, and maybe it is, but I'm going to give you some thoughts about why it isn't. All suffering comes from arguing with the present. What? It's kind of a bold statement. Let me tell you why I say that. If I'm thinking about some past time and thinking those were the good old days, even if it was yesterday, then I'm not happy because I'm not in yesterday. And I can't be in yesterday because I'm here in the present. If I'm thinking, well, I'll be happy when I get the next paycheck or the next raise or the next sale or some event in the future, then I'm always delaying being happy until I get further down this railroad track. That's really, really sad. That means I'm always yearning for some other time in the past or looking forward to some other time in the future and anything but enjoying right now. So if you choose to answer the question, are we there yet? With yes, always yes, because I'm always here, that'll give you a mindset to change how you experience every day. And I know that whole explanation might have sounded a little bit weird, but now is all there is. Okay, so let's assume for a minute that you can have now the experience of loving your life, the experience of really enjoying it, even if you don't have all the money you think you want, or even if you don't have the weather you want, or the position you want, or the relationship you want. If you don't have everything that you imagine is required, you don't have that, but you decide to be happy anyway. Is that crazy? You're going to yell at me and say you can't have that? That's not true. I'll argue. I'll call you out on that right now. You can have happiness right now. How? Well, you can just decide that what you have right this minute is enough for now. It doesn't have to be enough for another day. It's enough for now. There's some real power in that. If I'm spending a lot of energy frustrated that something that was yesterday isn't today, or if I spend a lot of energy worrying about what's coming tomorrow, then I can't enjoy the only thing I have, which is right here, right now. The equivalent in taking a trip, so I'm driving in a passenger car down this railroad that's behind me here, I can fuss and fidget and be upset and worried about the next train station and when am I going to get there, or I can enjoy the scenery, I can enjoy the companionship, I can read, I can be here now and choose to enjoy it. That's a simple example, but it applies to every part of life. So let's talk about, excuse me, let's talk about some of the things that get in our way. I can't tell you what gets in your way, but I can share with you some of the things that have gotten in my way. When people don't do what I want, right? I'll ask for something or I'll think something should be a certain way, that, someone should be at a certain place, or that certain things should be available, or, whatever it is, the weather, goods and services, prices, something. I was just looking up an Airbnb. Joy and I were going to take the family and we're going to go over to Vancouver Island, or we were going to, and we were looking for a place this summer and we couldn't find anything. So I have a choice with that. I can rage and be frustrated, or I can say, that's great. What can we create? And my choice is mine only, and it decides how I feel. Okay. Now, we have these myths that get in the way of this business I'm talking about, of being happy all the way along the trip, every day, every minute, every hour, every moment, every 8.64 seconds, right? One is, everything is attacking me. The world gets in my way. The government, the economy, everything is lined up against me. I hear that a lot. Do you say that? Do you feel that way? That things are just not going well for you? That everything is conspiring against you, people or places, or even the world itself? Or something that's a variant of that, everything for me is hard. I see everybody around me seems to have it all together, and I just don't. It's just hard for me. It's not my lot. Have you ever thought that or felt that? Okay. So then we also have on the other side these sayings like this: if you work hard, you'll be successful. If you never quit, you'll get there. If you stay in the game, you win. And yet we go after things. We try to get the next promotion. We try to make more sales to get more money. We try to create a relationship or repair one, and it doesn't seem to work. So then those things don't seem to be true. And that leads us to this frustration that life isn't fair and the ride along this railroad of life sucks. Well, that can be true, and it can be true forever for you, unless you make some really strong internal choices. And we're going to go over exactly what those internal choices are and how to make them in a minute. So those aphorisms, if you work hard and never quit, you're going to get there. And if, all that sort of stuff, they never really seem to be true. Let me give you some example. You might see somebody driving a really cool car, Mercedes or a McLaren or whatever, some incredible, and it's an expensive Veyron, right? And you say, they must be lucky, or they must have a rich uncle, or they must have won the lottery or something like that. And or else you think, they were some plastic surgeon. That's what I was going to say. Some dermatologist, plastic surgeon. And so they have this really lucrative career, and it's not fair. And I never could do that. And we sort of have this grumpy feeling. Or maybe we're just envious or whatever. So let's talk about that. You actually don't know what's true. You don't know how come they're driving that car. Maybe they rented it. Maybe they earned it. But if they did earn it, do you know what kind of work it takes to become a plastic surgeon, for example, who does make a lot of money? I have a friend who's a surgeon. He's not a plastic surgeon, but he's an internal medicine surgeon. And I asked him one day about his medical training to get there. And he had regular college, and then 4 years of medical school, and then 3 years of internship, and 3 or 4 more years of this, that, and the other. And there were probably a dozen years of preparation to be in a position where he is what he is right now in his particular specialty. And it's not a plastic surgeon, but he's had a dozen years of work. So when we talk about having the ultimate life, we have this caveat on it. It's like, well, I want everything to be like I want it, and I don't want it to be any work. I want it to be easy. Well, that doesn't happen. Nothing works like that unless we cheat. And when we cheat, it all comes crashing down. I'll give you another example. I just saw today on the television in the United States, now I'm in Canada, in the United States, in New York, there was a trial of some senator, and he just had a whole bunch of convictions. And they found $500,000 or more in cash and a bunch of gold in his house. And so he's convicted of some really serious crimes. So from the outside, it looked like he had it made, cars and money and whatever the trappings of wealth are. But the truth, his honesty is gone. His integrity is gone, rotten to the core. Defrauding people, an agent of a foreign government, I think was one of the charges. I didn't dig into it, but I thought that flashed on the screen. So what price did he pay for that, all that external trapping, because he wasn't willing to put in the years, like my surgeon friend? So we really never know what's going on with others. And so rather than, judge them as lucky or blessed, or if we're jealous or negative, what would happen if we just, again, this is that choice. If we chose to just be grateful that they are having such good fortune, and then to focus on what we can do for ourselves and others. Now, you might think I'm crazy, especially in the heated political stuff that seems to be going on with you guys down in the US right now, all the madness and recent assassination attempts and stuff. But what if you chose to believe and act with joy and with positivity? That's like sitting on this railroad track and waving at everybody that goes by. It means walking up and down the cars and greeting people and getting to know them. Am I nuts? I don't know. You be the judge. But I know when I go through my life like that, and I haven't taken a long train ride for a long time, but I go through my day. I had the opportunity today to have several conversations just this week so far. It's only Tuesday, with brand new people I've never met. And here's how I go into those conversations. I don't go in suspiciously. I don't go in, carefully. I just jump right in and get to know people and assume that they're wonderful, and just assume that they have something good to say and be. And I, once in a while, can be wrong, and that'll come out in the conversation. But because I do that, like waving at every person from the train window, I'm happy all day. Guess what? My trip through today is happy because of what I do. And if someone is grumpy or negative or frustrating or frustrated, I just let that go. Like, I don't have to take their frustration and put it on me like a coat. As a Canadian, watch the political stuff unfold in the US, I'm just horrified. People calling each other names, and it feels like everybody's calling for everybody to be eliminated and destroyed and wrecked, and no wonder there's violence. And I look at that from up here, and I'm both US and Canadian citizen, so I've been in the US a lot too. But I've been up here for the last 8 years, and it just seems scary. And what I know is it doesn't have to be like that. You and I, we can choose to just be happy today and loving and kind. We can choose to be tolerant. We can choose to add good to the world. We can choose to allow others to think what they think and do the good that we can in the space that we're in. We can do that. Now, you might think I'm nuts, so you might not think it's worth the effort, and that's up to you. But here's what I can tell you. Remember, we started with this idea of the trip, going on a trip. And we're going to the land of promise, the land of joy, the land of fun. And I don't mean dying. We're going to the land of fun. We're going to vacation land. Don't you want your trip to be as good as it can be? Or would you rather have it be miserable? The idea that you assign, or that I assign, my happiness or misery to someone else is sad. I can do that. I can be an empty nothing, and I can wait till there's some action or words outside of me, and then I can decide how I feel based on that. Or I can just be who I want to be. This whole podcast or show is about creating a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy. And I've lived both these ways. I lived for decades climbing the corporate ladder, making money, doing the backstabbing and jealousy at work, and just that whole corporate thing. I did that for a long time. It was always scary. It was always sad. It was always one-upsmanship. It was always proving things, and it was miserable. I have made an abrupt change 17 years ago and just said, I'm not doing that. I'm living a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy that I create every day. And that's what I'm inviting you to explore, because the calendar days are going to tick by either way. And I never get to control what the weather's going to do. I don't get to control what others are going to do, say, or think, but I can always control what I do, say, and think. Okay, so that all might seem hard. And it is to start with, at least it was for me. But I have found that as I make choices to live that way, life gets more fun. Life gets joyful every day. And when it is, it's easier to just keep living that way. Now, I want to give you not one other, but we're going to go down another track here for a minute. Ooh, a track. There's my train track. We're going to go take a little turn, and let's talk about how people present themselves. Because especially since the advent of social in about 2006 or 7, about 15, 18 years ago now, it is so easy for you or I to choose to be miserable, jealous, angry, or frustrated because someone else seems to be doing well. I mean, after all, look at them on vacation. Look at them doing this and that and the other on their social. And then we compare ourselves to that. And instead of choosing to be happy and joyful and add good to the world on our train ride through life, we're busy, craning our necks out the window looking at somebody else's train. Can I give you a statistic that might scare you? I read somewhere that at any given moment, and this was in North America, it may be worldwide, but I think the study I saw was North America. At any given time in a sample of people, regular people, random sample, over 50% of the people in that random sample are dealing with something extraordinarily difficult in their life. A death, a bankruptcy, a severe health thing, loss of a job, some real financial problems, a serious betrayal, maybe even addictions, life-threatening stuff. At any given moment, greater than 50%. So if you're with somebody else, the likelihood is that either you or one of you or they are dealing with a serious problem. So if I'm not the one, then the other person is, my reaction can be, oh, glad it's not me. Have a nice day. Or I can look for ways to serve and lift and bless. Again, that's my choice. But it's no different than waving at people from the train window. I make a choice about how I live my life, and I found that to be a lot more fun. So if that's true, and we really can't control the world, and we can't control anything around us, and it's so much work, or it seems like it is, to control our own attitudes and thoughts, another alternative that shows up is, well, I can just quit, right? I can just, I give up. It's too hard. Well, you can do that. And believe me, I've lived that way for a while. There were about 7 years, and that's a long time, where I just said, I can't do all the stuff I'm, quote, supposed to do, so I quit. I quit. And I just flopped to the floor, metaphorically, and floated along life day after day without really focusing, making lots of mistakes and a lot of dumb stuff. And what happened during that time doesn't matter, but I sure got a taste of what it's like to give up. or to think I can't manage this anyway. So then, and maybe you've done that too. So you have a choice. You can be mad at the world, you can hate the train track you're on, or you can choose to love everything that's going on in your life. One of the things that tripped me up is that I didn't discover the things that I'm telling you about my own ability to choose to have joy every day until I was in my 50s. I didn't discover that until I was 52. I sort of believed the idea that the only way to live life was what I'm supposed to do, right? And it was miserable for me. And here I am at 52. And it would have been easy for me to think it's too late. Holy crap, I've wasted 52 years. Well, let me tell you a secret that I've learned. It's never too late. Now, you might look at somebody who is doing something very successful and think they had luck. They got tricks. They got secrets I don't have. You know what? There are. What? Yeah, there are. And let me give you some real examples. It's like that 12 years of work I talked to you about earlier. I've run a recording studio off and on for 40 plus years. And you know something? I've got 90 something songs, 92, I think, up on Spotify and Apple and Amazon and all those places right now that are in commercial release. And so someone could look at that and say, oh, you must have, some magic. And the answer is no. I've spent 40 years learning music, learning to do arranging, learning to play instruments, learning to sing, and learning to do all those things. So the output you see is a result of 40 years of work. And so that's true for anything. It's true for singing. It's true for writing books. It's true for learning to coach. It's true for learning the skills that you have. The gifts and things that you're really good at, that didn't happen automatically. You learned them, you worked on them, and you got better. And each one of those skills that you do contributes to that vacation that you're taking on that train track. In other words, enjoying your life. Now, I'm using that train ride as a metaphor for cruising through life and heading toward that life, going past the stations of love, joy, kindness, fun, service, excitement, all of those things, instead of, stations with the opposite names. When I was 52, I started over. I threw away everything I'd done up to then. And the reason that I did is because I discovered I was on the wrong track. So I don't care how you've lived your life up to now. This invitation of this episode is to invite you to create your trip to dreamland, your trip to loving your life every day, your trip to realizing that you have complete and immediate control over your attitude, over your smiles, over your joy, over your fun. And you probably think I'm crazy for telling you can laugh every day, you can have fun every day, you can love your life every day, and you can really have that. So let's ask a question. When I threw everything away at 52 and started life all over again, you think that was easy? No. You think it was stupid? Maybe. Was it scary? Hell yes. Has it been fun? Because I'm now 17 years on into the sunset down that train track. Fun without measure. So let's ask a really deep question for you right now. Are you happy? Are you really, really happy? Are you settling for what's easy and obvious? Or are you dancing on the ceiling? That's really the crux of this. Because if you're settling for a life that's less than optimal, I'm not saying you shouldn't be. You can have anything you want, and if what you want is to settle for what you got, you're perfect. Then you're dancing on the ceiling. And you know what? If that's true, I would really enjoy it if you'd reach out to me. One of the things I love to do is talk to people, get to know folks that are living the life they dream, that are living that exciting, I call it the ultimate life, you know that, like I am, I want to issue a little small invitation right now, www.yourultimatelife.ca. Go there and get some free stuff. It's about how to create this life that we've been talking about. So here's a poem I found I want to share with you. And it's really funny about, are you happy and are you dancing on the ceiling about your life? Do you get up and it's a drudge, or do you get up and just, stoked about the day? So here's the poem. It's one written by Jesse B. Rittenhouse. It's not very long, but it's really thought provoking. So here goes. I bargained with life for a penny, and life would pay no more. However, I begged at evening when I counted my scanty store. Life is a just employer. He gives you what you ask. But once you have set the wages, why, you must bear the task. I worked for a menial's hire, only to learn, dismayed, that any wage I had asked of life, life would have willingly paid. And when I read that and I think about the meaning of that, it just says in very nice poetry that you can have anything you want. Any wage you had asked of life, life would have paid. You can truly have what you dream. Now, I had a chance yesterday to speak at an event, and often I talk about our divine creation and our ability. This is a group of coaches, and I talk about the sacredness of the calling or the job of being a coach. I call it a calling because that's how it feels. And the opportunity to create such abundance in those that you work with. But what I find is that most coaches live on a dull train track. They live in fear. They don't feel the rewards. They love coaching, but they don't know how to create the wage from life that they want. So here's the question. Wimbledon just finished, and I forgot Alcaraz won, beat Djokovic for the second year in a row, and I forgot the name of the gal that won. They paid the price to be there, and now they're holding up the trophy. If you want to live the life of purpose, prosperity, and joy, you can have it. And you have to go practice on the court of life until you get what you want. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to talk to you about what you do, what you would like to have in your dream life. Like after 30 years in one career, I quit. I started over. In the last 17 years, and I pursued the old sort of dream we're all stuffed with from the time we're born. Since then, I've created this ultimate life, purpose, prosperity, and joy, and I do love every day. And I bargained with life for $1 billion, and I'm getting it. $1 billion in cash, $1 billion in happiness, $1 billion in joy, in relationships, and in difference making in the world. And there's nothing special about me. I'm not interesting. I am not magic. But I have been a pioneer and blazed this trail. So if you can have whatever you want, just take that as a truth for a minute. It's like you're taking the train ride to Wonderland, right? The path to get there is known. The work to get there is known, just like it is Wimbledon. It's interesting because my wife is a soccer aficionado also, and there were two soccer tournaments, world tournaments recently. There was the Copa Cup, which is North and South America, and Argentina won that, of course, with Messi, the world's best player on the team. And there was the Euro Cup, and both of those, the Copa Cup and the Euro Cup, were held in the 2 years in between the World Cup, which is going to be in 26, I think. And Spain won the Euro Cup. The way that those players got there was by working every day on their dream. So are you willing to work on your dream? This is my second invitation. So my first one is, if you're living that life of dreams right now, can we talk? Really, I'd love to add you to the list of people that I know. I interview people all the time, sometimes for books that I'm writing and sometimes for shows, this show and the podcast, to talk about what you've been through. I just was on a podcast earlier today, and this was a lady who has a podcast named Under the Hood. And she talks to people as guests that have been through difficulties. And I've described mine many times here on the show, so I'm not going to. But what changed for them? So this is your invitation to take ownership of your life if you're not living your ultimate life. So your invitation is to go to this URL on the screen, www.yourultimatelife.ca, and get the stuff that I've created for you. And you know where it came from? It came from the learnings and the work that I did when I started over, and I've created this life that I have, that I love, and that I enjoy more than anything every single day. So I'm sharing with you there what I did and how you can have that too. So what do you know? And this is one of the funniest things. When I ask people what their dream life looks like, the only thing I hear is freedom, money, and that's about where we stop. Freedom, money, and health. I'm healthy all the time I want and all the money I want. Oh, what would you do with it? I don't know. And all that means is they're so overwhelmed with how they're living right now that they haven't given it any thought. Well, let's go back to that poem. That any wage I had asked of life, life would have willingly paid. Well, if we can't even describe what we're looking for, if we can't say anything more than time, money, and health, that's not specific enough to cause the creation of that thing. If the people playing in the Euro Cup had just said, well, I want to be a good soccer player, they wouldn't be in the Euro Championship. Same thing with Wimbledon and the rest. You have to be really specific. And this summer's packed because the Olympics start in about 2 weeks. Amazing. Those people have a very specific idea of what that goal is, that podium. So I challenge you right here, right now. If you want to live your ultimate life, if the idea of living a life that you dream is really interesting to you, the first thing is to get really specific, really, really specific. If it's money, how much money do you have? How do you make it? Who gives it to you? Why would they give that to you? What do you sell? Who do you serve? Right? Because money doesn't rain from heaven, and gold bars don't come in an Amazon box unless you're that crooked senator that just got convicted of bribery, conspiracy, and acting as a foreign agent and a bunch of other crimes that he's going to go away for probably for the rest of his life. So things come when we create them, when we fulfill the conditions of their creation. So as an entrepreneur, as I'm building businesses, it's always the question, what do you sell? Who do you serve? Why is it valuable? What difference does it make? Because without the answers to those questions, we don't really have anything to offer. I work with coaches, a few, they're not in the majority of my clients, but some. And one of the things I just had this conversation yesterday. And like I mentioned, I have lots of these, but I had this conversation yesterday with a gal, and I said, she's a coach, she's a good one. And I said, how do you help your clients? And so she talked a lot about feeling better. And I asked, but her question was, I'm having trouble converting clients. I'm having trouble getting people to hire me. And I said, well, have you had the conversations with them to help them understand the value of the changes you help them make? And she, no. Well, they're not paying you in feel goods. They're paying you in cash. So somebody's got to build the bridge between feel goods and cash. And so we worked on that, and I helped her learn to do that. And it was a big, big change for her to build that bridge so that what she was charging would make sense. Now, I have another question for you as we've got 5 minutes left, and that's this. You're an infinite being. So why are you limiting yourself? What if you could do anything you wanted that you love to do and get paid for it? What if you could get paid to snowboard? What if you could get paid to write? What if you could get paid to speak or plant flowers or grow gardens or whatever? What if you could get paid for that? And people ask me often, yeah, but I can't get paid for doing what I love. And you know what? I have never had a conversation with someone that's been a serious conversation where we have not been able to figure out how they could absolutely get paid for what they love to do. And so there's a third invitation. If you're having trouble figuring out how you can get paid for what you love to do so that your life is joyful, so that your work is joyful, if you're having trouble figuring that out, I invite you for a third time. Let's have a conversation because I promise I can help you figure that out. After my change 17 years ago, I didn't, walk away from that career and say, I want to be a coach. I didn't know that. I knew I was done with what I had. But over the last 17 years, I've done exactly what I described for you. And when I just asked you, what do I love to do? What do I do when I don't have anything else? No other callings on my heart and my mind. And my answer is speaking, writing, and doing music and coaching. So if I had all the money in the world, I would still speak, I would write books, I would still do music, and I would coach. I love those things. I've become really good at them. But it would never have come to me about how I can add good to the world and get paid doing what I love if I hadn't taken the steps that I've talked about today, taking control of my life, choosing to be happy, waving from at every single person from the train window because I can, living a life of encouragement and joy because it's a whole hell of a lot more fun than complaining and being negative. You have power you don't know. So sometimes I get asked, and I'm going to read kind of a funny list. People ask me, well, what do you sell? I don't sell anything. And I get paid a lot for the work that I do. If I use words that are easy to understand, it would seem that I sell change. I sell vision. I sell mental invincibility. I sell spiritual rejuvenation. I sell finding your true calling. I sell happiness. I sell fierce life ownership. I sell resilience, power, hope, execution. I sell excellence. I sell success, an unending prosperity. I sell guidance to help people write their own books and create programs and move into their ultimate life. I help you do things you don't believe right now that you can do, that you think you can't do. You know what? With tools you don't even know you have and power you don't know you control. That's just a short and small example of how I describe what I do. And that doesn't matter to you, but I share it with you because I want you to think about what you love to do. And if you could do anything and get paid, what would it be? And then I invite you to get a hold of me so we can talk about how to create your business, your impact, spread your light, do the things you want to do right here, right now, because you have a birthright with your genius and your ability. You have a birthright to live a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy. You have a birthright to excel, to be happy, to love, to be loved. And you can have those things. And if you think I'm nuts, I'm happy to have you argue with me, if you dare. But in any case, I invite you to connect. Let's figure out for you right here, right now, in 2024, how you can start today. Get on this train track. Take your journey to dreamland. and live your ultimate life.
You're listening to Your Ultimate Life with Kellan Fluckiger, only on LA Talk Radio.